The morning Earth received its first official alien transmission. Dr. Sarah Chen was drinking her third cup of coffee in the cramped control room of the Arecibo successor facility. The massive dish outside hummed with activity as it swept the cosmos for any sign of intelligent life. After decades of silence, the universe was finally talking back. "Director Chen, you need to see this," called out Marcus Webb, the facility's lead communications specialist. His voice carried an unusual tremor that made Sarah abandon her coffee and rush to his workstation. The screens displayed wavelengths and frequencies that shouldn't exist in nature. Complex mathematical patterns danced across multiple monitors, each one more intricate than human scientists had ever conceived. The signal was coming from the Proxima Centauri system, roughly 4 light-years away, but somehow it was arriving in real time rather than taking years to travel the distance. "How is this possible?" Sarah whispered, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "The signal delay should be." "There is no delay," Marcus interrupted. "Whatever technology they're using, it's transmitting instantaneously across interstellar distances. This is beyond our current understanding of physics." The mathematical sequences continued streaming in, growing more complex by the minute. Sarah recognized prime numbers, then advanced calculus, followed by what appeared to be unified field equations that human physicists had been struggling with for centuries. The aliens weren't just making contact, they were showing off their intellectual capabilities. Within 6 hours, linguists and mathematicians from around the world had gathered virtually to decode the transmission. Dr. Elena Volkov from Moscow State University was the first to crack the underlying language structure. The aliens, who called themselves the Zephyrians, were using mathematics as a universal translator, gradually introducing their linguistic concepts through increasingly sophisticated equations. By the end of the first day, basic communication was established. The Zephyrians expressed their excitement at discovering another intelligent species and requested permission to visit Earth. They painted themselves as peaceful explorers, eager to share knowledge and establish diplomatic relations. Their messages spoke of advanced technologies, cultural exchanges, and mutual benefits that would elevate human civilization to unprecedented heights. Sarah found herself appointed as Earth's primary liaison, a responsibility that felt both thrilling and terrifying. The Zephyrians had agreed to meet at a neutral location in space, roughly halfway between Earth and the Moon. They claimed their ships were already en route and would arrive within 72 hours. The next 3 days passed in a blur of international conferences, emergency United Nations sessions, and frantic preparations. World leaders struggled to present a united front while privately maneuvering for advantage in what everyone understood would be the most significant moment in human history. Military forces worldwide were placed on high alert, though publicly the emphasis remained on peaceful first contact. On the appointed day, Sarah found herself aboard the International Space Station's newest module, specially equipped with advanced communication arrays and diplomatic facilities. The crew of 12 included representatives from major world powers, leading scientists, and a small security detail. Through the observation windows, Earth hung below them like a blue marble, peaceful and unaware that its future was about to be decided. "Contact in 30 minutes, announced Captain Lu Wei, the mission commander. The Chinese astronaut had been selected for his calm demeanor and diplomatic experience, qualities that would prove essential in the coming hours. Sarah floated beside the main viewport, watching space for any sign of the approaching vessels. The Zephyrians had been deliberately vague about their ship designs, mentioning only that their fleet consisted of exploration vessels rather than military craft. They emphasized repeatedly that they came in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship rather than conquest. "There," whispered Dr. James Peterson, the mission's chief astronomer. He pointed toward a section of space that seemed to shimmer slightly, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. "Something's decloaking." The shimmer grew more pronounced, and, slowly, a ship began to materialize. It was unlike anything Sarah had imagined. The vessel stretched nearly a kilometer in length, its hull composed of what appeared to be living metal that flowed and shifted like liquid mercury. Organic curves replaced the angular designs of human spacecraft, and bioluminescent patterns pulsed along its surface in hypnotic rhythms. But it was the sheer elegance of the ship that took Sarah's breath away. Every line spoke of advanced engineering and aesthetic sophistication. The craft moved without visible propulsion, gliding through space as if swimming through an invisible ocean. As it drew closer, additional ships decklocked around it, forming a perfect diamond formation that demonstrated precise coordination and advanced tactical awareness. The lead ship transmitted a greeting in flawless English, the voice carrying musical undertones that suggested a non-human vocal structure. Greetings, people of Earth. I am Commander ZYX Thera of the Zephyrian Exploration Fleet. We come bearing gifts of knowledge and friendship. Captain Lu responded with humanity's prepared statement, welcoming the aliens and expressing Earth's desire for peaceful relations. The formal exchange continued for several minutes, each side carefully probing the other's intentions while maintaining diplomatic courtesy. We would be honored to demonstrate our technological capabilities, Commander ZYX Thera offered. Perhaps a display of our defensive systems would help build mutual trust and understanding. The suggestion seemed reasonable, and Sarah nodded to Captain Lu. Both sides had agreed that some display of capabilities was inevitable and probably necessary for establishing relative positions in any future relationship. The Zephyrian ships spread out into a complex formation, their hulls beginning to glow with increased energy. Suddenly, shimmering barriers appeared between the vessels, creating geometric patterns of pure force that bent light around them. Energy weapons emerged from concealed ports, demonstrating targeting systems that could track multiple objects simultaneously across vast distances. Impressive, murmured Dr. Peterson. Those force fields appear to be manipulating spacetime itself. Commander ZYX Thera's voice carried a note of pride. Our defensive matrices can withstand direct stellar radiation and protect against conventional kinetic weapons. Our offensive capabilities include plasma accelerators and quantum disruptors that can neutralize threats across multiple dimensional planes. The display continued for 20 minutes, showcasing technology that was clearly centuries ahead of human capabilities. The Zephyrians demonstrated faster-than-light communication, matter-energy conversion, and what appeared to be limited time dilation effects. Their ships moved with impossible grace, performing maneuvers that would have crushed human occupants under tremendous G-forces. Sarah felt a mixture of awe and deep concern. The technological gap between the species was vast, potentially insurmountable. If the Zephyrians had hostile intentions, Earth would be virtually defenseless. She made careful notes of everything she observed, knowing that military analysts back on Earth would scrutinize every detail. Now, Commander ZYX Thera continued, we would be most interested to observe your species' technological achievements. We understand you have developed spacefaring capabilities and some defensive systems. The request put the human delegation in an awkward position. Earth's most advanced spacecraft were essentially tin cans compared to the elegant vessels surrounding them. The International Space Station represented the pinnacle of human space technology, and it looked primitive next to the Zephyrian ships. Captain Lu glanced at Sarah, who checked her communication device for any updates from Earth. The response came quickly from the Joint Command Center, demonstrate what they could, but avoid revealing Earth's most sensitive military capabilities. Our technology is admittedly less advanced, Captain Lu admitted. But we would be happy to show you what we've accomplished. Through the station's communication array, he contacted the lunar defense grid that had been quietly activated 3 days earlier. Officially, the grid consisted of early warning satellites and communication relays. In reality, it represented humanity's most advanced space-based defense system, hastily assembled from existing missile defense components and prototype weapons platforms. The demonstration began modestly. Earth's satellites repositioned themselves in coordinated patterns, establishing communication networks and basic sensor grids. A few aging space shuttles that had been retrofitted for military purposes performed simple formation flying, showcasing humanity's basic space maneuvering capabilities. Commander ZYX Thera observed politely, offering occasional comments about human ingenuity and promising potential. The condescending tone was subtle but unmistakable. To the Zephyrians, humanity was clearly a primitive species taking its first tentative steps into space. Then, Admiral Rebecca Morrison's voice crackled over the secure communication channel from Earth's military command center. Sarah, tell them we'd like to show them our long-range defense capabilities. We're bringing online some systems they haven't seen yet. Sarah felt a chill of anticipation. She knew Admiral Morrison's reputation for strategic thinking and careful planning. Whatever the Admiral had in mind, it would be significant. We have some longer-range systems we'd like to demonstrate, Sarah announced to Commander ZYX Thera. They're based on different principles than what you've shown us. The Zephyrian commander's response carried polite interest. Certainly. We would be fascinated to observe your defensive technologies. What happened next would be remembered as the moment when first contact took an unexpected turn. Deep in Earth's oceans, massive shapes began rising from concealed positions. They emerged slowly, water cascading from hulls that dwarfed the largest surface vessels. The submarines were unlike anything in public knowledge, their designs clearly incorporating technology that had been developed in absolute secrecy. But these weren't conventional submarines. As they breached the surface, their true nature became apparent. Advanced magnetic drives engaged, lifting the massive vessels out of the water entirely. They rose into the atmosphere on pillars of controlled force, their hulls revealing weapon systems that bore no resemblance to conventional human technology. Commander ZYX-Thera's voice carried the first note of surprise they'd heard from the aliens. Fascinating. We did not detect these vessels in our preliminary scans of your planet. More surprises followed. Hidden bases across Earth's surface began revealing themselves, their concealing systems deactivating to expose launch facilities and defensive installations that clearly represented decades of secret development. Advanced fighters launched from underground facilities, their designs incorporating alien artifacts that had been recovered and reverse-engineered over the past 50 years. Sarah realized she was witnessing the unveiling of humanity's greatest secret. Earth had not been preparing for first contact with aliens. Earth had been preparing for the return of aliens who had already visited. The implications hit her like a physical blow. The recovered UFO technology, the mysterious advances in certain scientific fields, the classified projects that consumed enormous budgets with no public accountability, it all suddenly made sense. Humanity had been visited before, possibly multiple times, and some of that alien technology had been captured, studied, and weaponized. As if reading her thoughts, Admiral Morrison's voice came over the secure channel again. Dr. Chen, you're cleared to know that we've had intermittent contact with various alien species for the past 60 years. Most were brief encounters, some were hostile, and we've learned to prepare accordingly. The Zephyrians are just the first ones polite enough to announce themselves. The human fleet that was now revealing itself was staggering in scope and sophistication. Vessels emerged from hidden bases on the moon's far side, their designs incorporating the best of human engineering with recovered alien technology. The ships were smaller than the Zephyrian vessels but possessed a menacing efficiency that spoke of pure military purpose. Commander ZYX-Thera requested a brief recess to consult with their fleet commanders. The Zephyrian ships pulled back several thousand kilometers while their leaders held what was presumably an emergency conference. Sarah used the time to absorb what she was learning about humanity's secret history. The revelation that Earth had been visited repeatedly, that some encounters had been hostile, and that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades was overwhelming. She began to understand that her role as liaison was less about first contact and more about managing a carefully orchestrated reveal of human capabilities. When the Zephyrians returned, Commander ZYX-Thera's tone had shifted subtly. The condescension was gone, replaced by what sounded like cautious respect. Your species has proven more advanced than our preliminary observations suggested, the commander admitted. We would be interested to learn more about your defensive capabilities and the principles underlying your technology. Captain Liu smiled for the first time since the encounter began. We'd be happy to continue our demonstration. But first, perhaps we could discuss the real reason for your visit. Our intelligence suggests you represent more than just peaceful explorers. The chess game of first contact was beginning in earnest, and Sarah realized that humanity might not be playing from a position of weakness after all. The next few hours would determine whether first contact became the beginning of a beneficial relationship or the opening moves of an interstellar conflict. Through the viewport, the hidden human fleet continued to reveal itself, and Sarah caught her first glimpse of what would later be called the Terran Defense Force's true flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the Zephyrian ships and carried weapons systems that would soon reshape the balance of power in this corner of the galaxy. The silence stretched for nearly 10 minutes before Commander ZYX-Thera responded to Captain Liu's pointed question about their true intentions. When the alien finally spoke, the musical undertones in their voice had been replaced by something harder, more calculating. Your species is remarkably perceptive, ZYX-Thera acknowledged. Very well. We represent the Galactic Coordination Council, a body of 47 civilized species that maintains order in this section of the galaxy. Your world has recently begun broadcasting signals that suggest rapid technological advancement. Such developments require evaluation. Sarah felt her stomach drop. The careful diplomatic language couldn't hide the underlying threat. This wasn't first contact between equals, this was an inspection by a superior force to determine whether humanity posed a threat to the established galactic order. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through the secure channel, her tone carrying grim satisfaction. Dr. Chen, tell them we appreciate their honesty. And inform them that we've been monitoring their communications with their superiors for the past hour. Their backup fleet is interesting. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she relayed the Admiral's message. Commander ZYX Thera's response was immediate and sharp. Impossible. Our quantum encrypted communications cannot be intercepted by primitive technology. Perhaps you should check with your fleet commander in the Kuiper Belt, Captain Liu suggested mildly. Admiral Krell NAV seems to be having some technical difficulties with their cloaking systems. The revelation that humans had detected a hidden alien battle fleet sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian formation. Their ships began moving into defensive positions, force fields strengthening as weapon systems came online. The elegant exploration vessels suddenly looked far more menacing as their true military nature became apparent. But humanity's response was even more dramatic. The vessels that had emerged from Earth's oceans were joined by others rising from concealed positions throughout the solar system. Asteroid mining facilities revealed themselves to be heavily armed battle stations. The rings of Saturn, long studied by human astronomers, suddenly bristled with weapons platforms that had been disguised as scientific research stations. Most shocking of all was the emergence of the TDF Indomitable from its hiding place behind Earth's moon. The massive vessel was over 2 kilometers long, its hull incorporating recovered alien technology that had been reverse-engineered and improved upon over decades of secret research. The ship's appearance sent visible ripples through the Zephyrian formation as they realized they were facing something far beyond primitive human engineering. Dr. Elena Volkov's voice came through on the communication channel from Earth's command center. Sarah, I've been analyzing their language patterns and communication protocols. The Zephyrians aren't explorers or diplomats. They're advanced scouts for a larger invasion force. Their initial contact was designed to assess our capabilities and identify weaknesses. The pretense of peaceful first contact was rapidly dissolving. Commander ZYX Thera seemed to realize that their deception had been exposed, because their next transmission carried openly hostile undertones. Your species has developed beyond acceptable parameters, ZYX Thera declared. The Galactic Coordination Council cannot permit the emergence of another aggressive, expansionist race. You will submit to technological limitations and accept supervised development, or you will be neutralized as a threat to galactic peace. Admiral Morrison's response was broadcast on open channels so both the aliens and the human crew could hear it clearly. Commander ZYX Thera, on behalf of the human race, I formally reject your ultimatum. Earth is sovereign territory, and we will not accept external control of our development. The first shots of the conflict came not from energy weapons or missiles, but from an unexpected source. The Zephyrian ships attempted to deploy what appeared to be some form of neural suppression field, designed to incapacitate the human crews without damaging their vessels. The technology had probably been used successfully on dozens of other species, rendering them helpless while their worlds were subjugated. Instead, the neural suppression field struck barriers that the aliens couldn't understand. Every human ship was protected by Faraday cages that had been specifically designed to counter psychic attacks based on recovered alien technology. The field dissipated harmlessly, leaving the human crews completely unaffected. Impossible, ZYX Thera transmitted, genuine shock evident in their voice. No species has ever resisted the neural pacification matrix. You've never encountered humans before, Admiral Morrison replied. We have a bad habit of preparing for things that haven't happened yet. The battle began in earnest as the Zephyrian ships opened fire with their plasma accelerators and quantum disruptors. The weapons were devastatingly effective, capable of tearing apart conventional matter at the subatomic level. But the human ships didn't absorb the attacks, they redirected them. The TDF Indomitable's primary defensive system was based on recovered technology from a crashed alien vessel near Roswell in 1947. The original deflector shields had been studied, improved, and enhanced with human engineering innovations. Instead of simply absorbing energy attacks, the human shields captured the incoming energy and redirected it back at the attackers with increased intensity. The first Zephyrian vessel to fall was struck by its own reflected plasma burst, amplified by human modification. The elegant ship's living metal hull couldn't withstand its own weaponry being turned against it, and the vessel broke apart in a spectacular explosion that illuminated half the solar system. But the real surprise came when the human fleet went on the offensive. The weapons systems that emerged from the TDF Indomitable and its supporting vessels weren't based on any known human technology. They were pure alien design, but manufactured with human precision and reliability. Antimatter torpedoes launched from concealed tubes, each one guided by AI systems that had been developed from captured alien computers. The torpedoes didn't simply explode on impact, they created controlled singularities that collapsed sections of spacetime itself. Zephyrian shields, no matter how advanced, couldn't protect against attacks that bypassed conventional physics. The hidden alien fleet in the Kuiper Belt attempted to intervene, decloaking to reveal 12 massive battleships that dwarfed even the TDF Indomitable. Each vessel bristled with enough firepower to sterilize a planet, and their combined fleet represented centuries of advanced alien military development. They lasted exactly 17 minutes against humanity's secret weapon. The Terran Defense Force had spent 60 years preparing for this moment, and their preparations had been thorough beyond the aliens' wildest imagination. Hidden throughout the solar system were weapons platforms that had been disguised as everything from communications satellites to asteroid mining equipment. When the alien battle fleet revealed itself, it found itself surrounded by a network of defensive positions that had been planned and positioned with meticulous care. But the true horror for the aliens was the realization that their most advanced technology was being used against them. Every weapon system, every defensive matrix, every tactical innovation they deployed was met by an equal or superior human countermeasure based on alien technology that had been captured, studied, and improved. Commander Krell NAV of the alien battle fleet transmitted desperately to his superiors. Request immediate reinforcements. The humans have access to Void Reaper technology. Repeat, they have Void Reaper tech. Sarah didn't recognize the term, but the panic in the alien commander's voice was unmistakable. She looked to Captain Lou for explanation, but he seemed equally confused. Admiral Morrison's voice came through the channel with grim satisfaction. The Void Reapers were an extinct race that the Galactic Coordination Council supposedly destroyed 50,000 years ago. Turns out they weren't as extinct as everyone thought. They'd been hiding in our system for millennia, and, when they finally died out, they left us their entire technology base as a final gift. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just been visited by various alien species over the decades, they had been chosen as inheritors by one of the most feared races in galactic history. The Void Reapers had apparently been waiting for a species capable of understanding and improving their technology, and they had found that species in humanity. The battle turned into a rout as human ships deployed weapons that the Galactic Coordination Council had thought lost forever. Void cannons that could erase matter from existence carved through alien hulls like paper. Temporal displacement missiles sent entire enemy vessels backward in time, causing them to collide with their own past selves in paradoxical explosions that defied comprehension. Most devastating of all were the consciousness transfer weapons that could extract the minds of enemy crews and trap them in virtual prisons while leaving their ships intact. The psychological warfare implications were horrifying, and several alien captains chose to destroy their own vessels rather than face capture by such means. Commander ZYX Theros' transmission came through broken and desperate. We surrender. Cease fire. The Galactic Coordination Council formally recognizes Terra as a sovereign world and withdraws all claims to authority over your species. But Admiral Morrison wasn't finished. Commander ZYX Thera, your surrender is noted and rejected. You came here with the intention of enslaving or destroying my species. The only acceptable outcome now is your complete withdrawal from this star system and a formal guarantee that no alien force will threaten Earth again. Impossible. The Council will never agree to such terms. Then, the Council will learn what happens when you threaten humanity, Morrison replied coldly. Dr. Chen, please transmit our gift to the Galactic Coordination Council. Sarah watched in horror as the TDF Indomitable's main weapon system charged up. The massive vessel's entire superstructure reconfigured itself around a weapon that seemed to bend space around it. When it fired, the beam that emerged wasn't visible light or energy, it was pure destruction given form, a lance of absolute negation that could unmake anything it touched. The beam crossed interstellar space instantaneously, guided by alien navigation technology that allowed it to strike targets dozens of light-years away. Its destination was the Galactic Coordination Council's primary fleet base, and its message was unmistakable. The entire battle had lasted less than 2 hours, but its implications would reshape the galaxy. Humanity had not only defended itself successfully against a superior alien force, it had demonstrated weapons technology that surpassed anything the galactic community had ever seen. As the surviving Zephyrian ships limped away from the solar system, Sarah realized that first contact had ended not with humanity joining the galactic community as junior partners, but with humanity establishing itself as the new dominant power in their region of space. The age of human expansion among the stars was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the distance, more human ships were emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system, revealing the true scope of the Terran Defense Force and confirming that Earth had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone had imagined. The Void Reaper's legacy lived on in human hands, and the species that had once ruled the galaxy through fear and technological superiority had found worthy successors. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to face a species that had inherited the weapons of gods and the determination never to kneel before anyone. 3 weeks after the battle that would become known as the Solar Defense, Sarah Chan found herself aboard the TDF Indomitable as it traveled to the galactic core. The massive vessel moved through hyperspace using Void Reaper technology that allowed it to cross distances in hours that would take conventional alien ships months to traverse. The irony wasn't lost on her that humanity's first diplomatic mission beyond their solar system was being conducted aboard what was essentially a weapon of mass destruction. Admiral Morrison stood beside her in the observation deck, watching the swirling patterns of hyperspace through reinforced transparent aluminum viewports. The Admiral had aged visibly in the past weeks, the weight of commanding humanity's emergence as a galactic power taking its toll. "The reports are coming in from our deep space monitoring stations," Morrison said quietly. 47 different species are mobilizing their fleets. The Galactic Coordination Council is calling for a complete military response to what they're calling the Terran threat. Sarah studied the tactical displays that showed the movements of alien fleets across thousands of light years. The scale was staggering, millions of ships representing the combined military might of nearly 50 advanced civilizations, all converging on human space. Any one of those fleets would have been sufficient to destroy pre-contact Earth. Together, they represented enough firepower to crack planets and sterilize entire star systems. "How many ships do we have?" Sarah asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Approximately 8,000 vessels of various classes," Morrison replied. "Plus the defense platforms throughout the system and the manufacturing facilities that are working around the clock to build more." The numbers were sobering. Humanity was outnumbered nearly 100 to 1 by forces that, individually, possessed technology superior to anything Earth had developed on its own. Only the Void Reaper inheritance gave them any chance of survival, and Sarah wondered if even that would be enough against such overwhelming odds. Dr. Elena Volkov's voice came through the ship's communication system from her laboratory deep within the vessel's core. "Admiral, I've finished analyzing the cultural and psychological profiles we gathered from our prisoners. You need to hear this." The 3 surviving Zephyrian crew members had been captured when their damaged ship was disabled rather than destroyed. Their interrogation had revealed disturbing information about the nature of galactic civilization and humanity's place within it. "The Galactic Coordination Council isn't just a governing body," Elena explained as they gathered around the central holographic display. "It's a system designed to prevent any single species from achieving technological supremacy. Every time a race begins to develop advanced capabilities, they're either absorbed into the Council's hierarchy or eliminated entirely." 3-dimensional star maps showed the pattern clearly. Over the past 100,000 years, dozens of promising civilizations had been discovered by Council scouts, evaluated, and then either recruited as subordinate members or mysteriously destroyed by natural disasters or civil wars. The Void Reapers were the last species to successfully resist this system, Elena continued. They fought a war against the entire galaxy and won, establishing themselves as the dominant force for nearly 20,000 years. When they finally disappeared, the Council thought the threat of technological independence had ended forever. Sarah studied the historical data with growing understanding. "Until we showed up carrying their technology and demonstrating that we'd not only mastered it but improved upon it." "Exactly. From their perspective, we represent the return of their greatest nightmare, a species with Void Reaper technology but without the Void Reaper's restraint or wisdom." Admiral Morrison activated the ship's strategic planning system, and the holographic display shifted to show real-time intelligence on the approaching alien armadas. "The question is whether we fight them all at once or try to break their alliance through diplomatic means." The answer came from an unexpected source. Deep in the ship's most secure section, the recovered Void Reaper database had been slowly revealing its secrets to human researchers. Dr. James Peterson emerged from the restricted area carrying data crystals that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Admiral, you need to see what we've discovered about the Void Reaper's final years, Peterson announced, his voice carrying excitement and horror in equal measure. They didn't just disappear, they transcended. And they left behind more than just technology. The data crystals contained something that challenged human understanding of consciousness and existence. The Void Reapers hadn't died in any conventional sense. They had uploaded their entire civilization into a quantum matrix that existed parallel to normal spacetime, becoming beings of pure thought and energy while leaving their physical technology for their chosen successors. They're still here, Peterson explained as impossible equations filled the display screens. Every Void Reaper weapon system, every piece of their technology, contains fragments of their consciousness. We haven't just been using their tools, we've been gradually integrating with their collective intelligence. The implications sent chills through everyone present. Humanity hadn't simply inherited alien technology, they were slowly becoming something more than human through their interaction with devices that contained the preserved minds of a transcended species. But the revelation explained why human adaptation of Void Reaper technology had been so successful. The weapons and ships weren't just responding to human commands, they were actively teaching their users, sharing knowledge and capabilities that organic minds couldn't fully comprehend. Admiral Morrison made a decision that would reshape the course of the coming conflict. Dr. Peterson, can we communicate directly with these consciousness fragments? We've been trying for weeks. The communication protocols are incredibly complex, but I think we're close to establishing a stable connection. What followed was the first direct conversation between humans and beings who had transcended physical existence 50,000 years earlier. The Void Reapers spoke through the ship's quantum processing cores, their voices carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in dimensions beyond normal perception. Children of Earth, the collective consciousness communicated, you have proven worthy of our legacy. But you face the same choice that destroyed our physical forms, whether to rule through fear or transcend through wisdom. Sarah found herself designated as humanity's primary communicator with the transcended beings. The weight of speaking for her entire species was overwhelming, but the Void Reapers seemed to understand her thoughts before she expressed them. The galaxy fears you because you carry our power, they explained. But they do not understand that power without wisdom leads only to emptiness. We ruled through strength for millennia, crushing all opposition, until we realized that dominance without purpose was merely another form of extinction. The conversation continued for hours as the TDF Indomitable traveled toward the galactic core. The Void Reapers revealed the true history of galactic civilization, cycles of war and oppression stretching back millions of years, with each dominant species eventually falling to the same pattern of conquest and decay. The Galactic Coordination Council represents order through stagnation, the consciousness explained. They maintain peace by preventing progress, ensuring that no species can challenge their authority. But this approach leads only to slow decline and eventual extinction. Then, what's the alternative? Sarah asked. Evolution. Growth. The transformation of consciousness itself. We chose to transcend our physical limitations rather than continue the endless cycle of conquest. But you have the opportunity to choose a different path, to uplift the galaxy rather than rule it. The strategic implications were staggering. Instead of preparing for a defensive war against overwhelming odds, humanity could potentially transform the entire nature of galactic civilization. But first, they would have to survive the coming assault. The Void Reapers offered knowledge that went beyond mere weapons technology. They provided access to dimensional manipulation techniques that could allow human ships to exist in multiple realities simultaneously, making them effectively invulnerable to conventional attacks. More importantly, they shared the consciousness transfer protocols that could preserve human minds even if their physical bodies were destroyed. But the most significant revelation came when the transcended beings explained the true nature of the approaching alien armadas. The massive fleets weren't just military forces, they were the entire populations of their respective species, fleeing their homeworlds in terror at the prospect of facing Void Reaper technology again. They remember the last war, the consciousness revealed. Entire star systems were erased from existence. Civilizations that had lasted millions of years were reduced to quantum dust in moments. The survivors have spent 50,000 years living in fear that we might return. Sarah realized that the galaxy was mobilizing not for conquest but for survival. The alien species saw humanity not as a new threat to be contained, but as the return of their ultimate enemy. The war that was coming wouldn't be about territorial control or resource allocation, it would be about the fundamental right to exist. Admiral Morrison gathered her senior staff for a strategy session that would determine humanity's response to the crisis. The options were stark and limited. They could fight a defensive war in their home system, hoping that Void Reaper technology would be sufficient to repel the combined alien fleets. They could launch preemptive strikes against the approaching forces, using their superior mobility and weapons to destroy the enemy before they could coordinate their assault. Or they could attempt something that had never been tried before, use Void Reaper consciousness transfer technology to directly communicate with the alien populations, bypassing their military leaders and governmental systems to address the fear and misunderstanding that was driving the conflict. The risk is enormous, Dr. Peterson warned. Consciousness transfer across interstellar distances using unfamiliar alien neural patterns could result in permanent mental damage or even death for anyone who attempts it. But, if it works, Sarah added, we could potentially end this conflict before it begins. The decision ultimately fell to Admiral Morrison, who had spent her career preparing for scenarios that most people couldn't imagine. She looked at the strategic displays showing the approaching alien armadas, then, at the readings from the Void Reaper consciousness matrix that was offering humanity the chance to evolve beyond the cycle of galactic warfare. We try the consciousness transfer first, she decided. If we can convince even a few species to withdraw from the Alliance, we might prevent the worst possible outcome. But, we prepare for total war in case diplomacy fails. As the TDF Indomitable approached the coordinates where they would attempt first contact with the alien alliance, Sarah prepared for the most dangerous diplomatic mission in human history. She would be consciousness linking with beings whose thought patterns were completely alien, trying to communicate across barriers of fear, misunderstanding, and ancient trauma. The fate of both humanity and galactic civilization hung in the balance, and the next few hours would determine whether the galaxy would be consumed by the greatest war in its history or transformed by the first truly successful attempt at transcendent diplomacy. Behind them, hidden throughout human space, the Terran Defense Force prepared for the possibility that diplomacy would fail and that humanity would have to fight for the right to exist among the stars.